Yo, it's your boy eBay Fight Predictions in the building, and I'll be breaking down Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler in the UFC 262 main event in Houston, Texas, baby. We got some fans back in this bit, and we got a great fight, man. I love this fight. It's obviously, man, y'all already know I enjoyed doing a film study on this. I told y'all what to pick out of Zhang versus Rose or this. And y'all picked, Charles and Chandler, and I enjoyed doing my film study on this, and this was really fun. But let's get to the stats, man. In terms of the rankings, Chandler comes in as the number 4 guy in the lightweight division, and Oliveira is coming as the number 3 guy in the division. Both guys will be fighting for the vacant title, which is, interesting. I love it. It's a great matchup. It's a great fucking matchup. And both guys are coming off wins, and that's what you want to do at the end of the day. You want to have winners fight winners. So if they deserve it, obviously Charles does. I don't know about the fucking midget, but yeah, it is what it is. What it is. But man, let's get to these stats, man. Let's talk about the records. But yeah, Charles comes in with a record of 30-8. Fights out of Brazil. Actually, doesn't fight out of Brazil. He fights out of Houston, Texas. So he might have a hometown advantage here. He is from Brazil, age 31, hitting his prime. He got a height of 5'10" and a reach of 74. Chandler is 22-5. Is fighting out of Florida, Stanford MMA, baby. I love that gym. Age 35. So this is Chandler's prime years. This is where he's getting out, but he's still in his prime, man. I've seen so many guys, get counted out after they turn, or when they turn 35. Or they get past 35 and the 36 guys are like, oh, he's past his prime. That's kind of like, that's wishy waters. I feel like for a really great high caliber fighter, sometimes it's different for everybody. But for me, I feel like a high caliber fighter, I feel like age 38 to 40 is kind of like past your prime. I feel like when no injuries and no nothing, 36 and 37 are kind of like you actually get better. You look at a guy like Jan Blachowicz. Look at a lot of guys, man. T. Wood won the belt when he was older, so it is what it is. But besides that, I think Chandler, it's still being 35, you're still in your prime, so it doesn't matter. I got a height of 5'8" and a reach of 69, man. But if we look at what Chandler has accomplished, in Bellator and the UFC, and we look in terms of notable wins, man, the guy has beat a lot of good people, man. I can't take that away from him. He's beaten a lot of good people, back in the day, man, like he beat Eddie Alvarez before a lot of these guys beat Eddie Alvarez. This was in 2011. Eddie, it's before he got in the UFC, and that was a great fight. And I just those were some studs right there, some wrestling studs that was slanging and banging, throwing leather, and I give him a lot of credit. That's a former, whatever you want to say about Eddie now. I know Eddie just lost his last fight, but Eddie, hey man, he knocked out that fucking fool Justin Gaethje. So, and that wasn't too long ago. Let's be honest here. He's beaten some really good fighters like Rafael dos Anjos, Anthony Pettis. Eddie Alvarez is a good win to have under your record and under your win column, basically. Then he loses to Eddie in obviously a very, very razor close split decision. I thought he won that fight. I did think he won that fight, but it is what it is. It was very close. Eddie is just a scrapper, and he worked really hard, but it is what it is. Then he fights Will Brooks in a very close fight, and this, I did give it to Will. I did think Will won this, and it was very, very close. These are very, very close fights, but in terms of me breaking this down in film study, I started off with the rematch versus Will Brooks, and this fight compared to the first fight, Will was just sensational. A master at his craft. I do like the interruption, y'all. It is what it is. This computer be tripping sometime, pissing me off. But yeah, like I was saying, Will had a phenomenal performance. His jab, his footwork, I think one of the best things to do with Chandler is Chandler has a somewhat boxing footwork. He's very light on his toes. He has a very bouncy movement. He bounces into the jab to the body. He bounces into the cross to the body, and then kind of like rolls under and throws the hook to the head. Like, he's very bouncy. And what Will did so beautifully in that fight was maintain another bounce. He had like it was like a hybrid version of a boxing kind of footwork with some, almost like Muay Thai karate-esque, like kind of just, skill. Like he just looked really, really sharp and just looked really, really good. And I was just so super, super impressed. And I was very like, whoa, that is very scary what he was able to do in there. And Will, his takedown defense. Chandler is a D1 wrestler. Will is, I think, a D2. And Will just was so sensational. And I think even the media days before, Will was like, I'm going to show this guy that I'm not only a better mixed martial artist than him, but I have a better MMA wrestling game. And he showed it to him, man. Chandler, he did everything in his power to try to take him down, and he couldn't do it. Like, there were moments where I think Will kind of tripped up, but like, Chandler controlled Will under the cage, but Will would get out. And, Chandler would have control time, but, like, man, you could see he was going for these takedowns. And Will's hips, man, I tell y'all, hips are some of the most important things in wrestling and wrestling exchanges. If your hips are good, dude, you're going to be a hard guy to take down. And Will's hips were just sensational. And, he had his way with him. He had sprawls against Chandler that was just, it didn't make sense. He would throw a spinning heel kick. Chandler goes for when you do that shit and someone goes for 9 times out of 10 they get it. He went for the spinning heel kick. Chandler goes for the single leg or goes for an ankle pick, right? And then Will fucking sprawls and he doesn't get taken down. Will looked amazing. His jab was on point. Everything was on point in this fight. He even took Chandler down twice. I know some of these are a little bit, Chandler kind of tripped. But, in wrestling, your butt hits the floor, your back hits the floor, like, that's an automatic 2 points, buddy. I'm sorry. And, man, Will's penetration shot was beautiful. A lot of it was, like, he had the right entry, but, finishing was a little hard. But, he had enough force and push to kind of, like, get Chandler off balance. And it was just, it was amazing to watch. You was just seeing, a sensational performance. I was like, wow, I'm so proud. I'm so proud. He looks amazing. And then the ignorance in the 4th round, man. I have never seen this in my life. That fight. What Will Brooks did to Chandler. I know Will hasn't bounced back from this fight, or he hasn't looked as good as he did against Chandler. He's kind of not looked good at all. But it is what it is at the end of the day. So, no matter what, Chandler got to call this man Pops because... So, Chandler has the underhook, right? And they're going in a... I'm sorry, someone's calling me like crazy. I got to turn off my phone. Yeah, so, Chandler goes for has the underhook. I think it was a weird situation. I think Chandler went for the takedown. He has the underhook. Then Chandler, I guess, and this is a wrestling move. You basically almost kind of sprawl out when someone's trying to when they got you like an over under position and they try to get your leg, or they try to switch to a double or single. He kind of like sprawled out and used it's almost like a judo move. It's basically a wizard. He kind of wizarded out of that situation, but like Will wizarded so hard, like Chandler ended up hitting his fucking head super, super hard, and then right when they detached, Will hits him with this crazy straight right on the dome piece, and Chandler forgets that he's fighting his pops Will, and is like, no mas, basically. I don't want no. And then Will, like the father that he is, went out there and put it on that boy and started hitting him. And Chandler's head goes through the fucking, I don't even know what to call it. Like, where they have the advertisements on like the sides of the octagon, or I guess like their cage or whatever. It's like some foam and shit like that. And they'll advertise the next event. His head went through there. He was like this, and Will is just smacking on him. If there was no ref, Will would have killed him. All right, that's just a fact. All right, it was insane. I've never seen anything like that. Will looked like, one of the best MMA fighters on the planet, man. Oh my God. But I got to give the guy his credit to Chandler. He did, bounce right back from that. He ended up beating Derek Campos, David Rickles, Patricky Pitbull, and that knockout was insane. Then beats Benson Henderson in a very, very close split decision, which was nuts how that fight became super close. Then he loses to Brett Primus, which was insane. It was a crazy leg thing. I think a lot of people seen it. It was just a doctor stoppage. And then he goes on another 2-fight win streak to get the rematch over Gody Yamchi and Brandon Gritz, who's a tough motherfucker, and he arm triangle the fuck out of him. And in this rematch against Brett Primus, we saw, Chandler's championship grit. I think he grew since that Brett Primus, not that Brett Primus, the Will Brooks fight, and he was just more tactical about how the way he goes for certain things, and he looked really, really good. He looked, amazing in this fight. I just, dude, he had so many good moments, and I love how Chandler attacks the body just to make you think about the body, and then goes up top with the lead hook, and that's what he did to Brett. He dropped him with that, and that was amazing. He is so good at rolling through shots, and you can just see his pad work with Henry Hoofton. I don't think I ever seen him throw a lot of kicks with Henry, which is interesting. I don't know if it's because he's a wrestler and maybe he doesn't have good hips, or he can't throw really good kicks. I don't know what it is. He does throw kicks. I've seen it sometimes, but that was insane. And but Brett Primus did catch him. He did catch him with a lead hook. Chandler was, he left his chin out the air, got dropped, and then Brett got his back, which was crazy. But Chandler powered through it, and this is where we start to see the championship level grit and the wrestling prowess of Missouri wrestler. Division I. Him, Ben Askren, T Wood. Those guys are legitimate guys. T Wood and Ben Askren are in the Hall of Fame for their wrestling accolades. Man, he's also was a good wrestler too, and he was able to use the wrestling against Brett Primus, who he's good. He has great grappling. He's not a bad fighter. He does choke out a lot of people, so it was kind of crazy how Chandler kind of controlled him on the ground. A lot of takedowns over and over and over again. And this is something we might be able to see he might be able to do against a guy like Oliveira, just taking him down and controlling him and just, gritting it out. And he has this 5-round experience, what makes him special in this fight. And he was just able to keep taking him down, and win himself a decision in this fight. And hey, good on him. He got the rematch and beat him. And then, oh man, I laugh at this. When I see this. He fights after knockout. I talked about the Patricky fight. After beating Patricky Pitbull, he fights Patricio Pitbull, little brother. And I kind of skipped over this, and I will explain. It's not a long fight, but there's a lot of animosity that went in this fight. You can go look it up. When Chandler knocked out Patricky, and I think this fight is on YouTube, so you can search it up, and I think they have this moment. He goes to Patricky's corner and sees, obviously it's Patricio Pitbull, so he's going to corner his brother, right? He goes up to him and just yelled. I don't know what he said to him. I don't know. But he yelled at him, and I think they had beef before that, but ever since then they hated each other, and they still hate each other to this day. And even at the weigh-ins, it got crazy, and Chandler's like, I knocked you the fuck out, so shut up to Patricky at the weigh-ins, because Patricky was in the background. And then Patricia's like, I'm your opponent, don't worry about him. And then they fight, and I've never seen more beautiful karma in my life. Patricio Pitbull knocks him out in the first round. You can say whatever you want, it was a fluke, this or that, behind the ear, he got him out of there, smoked him, and taught him a lesson. You can talk mess to family, but you better take care of the whole family, because they gonna come for you. And Patricio Pitbull, he showed him why he is the Bellator, not only the Bellator featherweight champion, but he showed him why he is the greatest Bellator fighter of all time. Stop playing with him. Set that boy down. I'm telling y'all, put some respect on Patricio Pitbull's name. Alright? This is another guy Chandler has to call Pops. He can't say nothing to this dude. Alright? It's all respect. He got to respect this man. Alright? And that's facts. And that's the thing, at the end of the day, that's the fight game. He got caught, and Chandler was super, super humble in defeat, and I respected him a lot, because there was a lot of trash talk. And Chandler, the thing is, everyone says it, he comes off like, this guy that's like, oh God, and I have a black son, and I'm so cool for having a black son, and and he comes off like a faithful guy. But a lot of people like Josh Thompson, people like Patricky and Patricio Pitbull, say this guy's fake as hell. It's almost similar, kind of like John Jones, where he talks a lot of shit. And it's his competitive nature. It's what makes him great. So you can't hate on it. But at the same time, when it doesn't go your way, you can't get mad at people like me for pointing it out. But yeah, Patricio, not only did he defend his family, but he shut down Chandler, and he kind of basically ended Chandler's run in Bellator and kind of booted him out of there low key, and kind of took his spot as because Chandler had that kind of thrown as the greatest Bellator fighter of all time, or one of the greatest talents to come into Bellator, and Patricio took that right. But Chandler kept fighting in Bellator. He had 2 more fights. He had a fight with Sidney Outlaw in Japan. I watched this live, man. This was sensational performance. I got to give him his credit there. He looked amazing. I can't even discredit him here. He looked good. Y'all. The movement was great, and Sidney's a good fighter, man. Sidney's top 5 in the Bellator rankings, so it's not like he beat a bum. And Sidney, he has a decent record of at the time he had a record of 14-3, and I mean he caught him with that right cross, right to his, almost like it's kind of similar to how Patricio knocked out Chandler. Almost it was similar, and his movement, everything, man. Again, he gets great bouncy movement, and his footwork and all of it. It's very, very, he's a scary guy. And the way he penetrates into shots, man, I mean, it's beautiful. And nothing against the guy. I mean, he took Sidney out. He took him right back home. And then he runs it back with Benson Henderson in his next fight. And this is where he becomes a monster, where there's been a real level up in his game, because he learned not to how to switch stances, but he now has pop as a southpaw. He can switch stances, and he kills guys. In this Benson Henderson fight, this was a rematch, and this was a very, very close fight in the first fight. Benson made somewhat of a comeback in the championship rounds. He only won 2. I don't think he did that great. Chandler ended up kind of bullying him around and suplexing him like a motherfucker. But in this fight, there was a moment, right? I think Chandler threw a body kick, right? Benson might have caught it, or he took it. Then Chandler switches stances because of throwing the body kick or the lead kick. That happens in Muay Thai. You see guys when they kicking pads or whatever, you see them switch stances. He throws that right, or that I think a 1-2 or something like that at Benson, or it was a left cross, and then to ground and pound. I mean, he killed him from switching stances like that. The whole fight, he wasn't really he wasn't finding success, but right when he switched to southpaw, it kind of, because when you see guys like Crawford, right, in boxing, he's switching stances. It's hard to deal with guys, because you forget, oh shit, where's their power hand? How do I move? Dealing with southpaws, you can hear it from any boxer or any fighter. It's one of the hardest things to deal with, and he was able to do that, and he left him cold, man. He left him cold on the ground, and he beat him. He beat him bad, and Benson's a hard guy to finish. Benson's super tough. Very few, like Rafael dos Anjos, very few guys really finished Benson. And Chandler went out there and he finished him. And then he fights my boy Dan Hooker. I don't like talking about it, y'all. This one was heartbreaking. This is where Chandler became my arch nemesis, my enemy. He is public. Besides Yuri Pahauska, whatever the fuck you say is, he became number 1 enemy of the public, But Hooker, I don't know what happened in this fight. I think Hooker was trying to imitate Will Brooks. I think that's what was going on. But he doesn't have, I wouldn't say you need to have boxing footwork, but you need to have almost like a variety of everything and mixing it up to kind of deal with him and kind of try to replicate what Will Brooks did. Will had good hips. He was athletic. You can see everything he did was with athleticism, and he wasn't a finisher, but he was very technical in there. And he's more of a kickboxer, more of a Muay Thai fighter. So I'm not gonna say they're not smooth or they're not, they fight a lot differently. They go forward. Dan is a guy that goes forward. He fights behind his jab sometimes, and he does have a good jab, and he has a good knee, but Dan goes forward. And to tell Dan before the fight, hey, you need to fight like this, I feel like that was a mistake. They should have just told Dan, just keep your fucking hands up, right? Defend the takedown and try to get this guy tired. I think that should have been the game plan, and maybe that was the game plan. And he did a lot of good things, kicking the legs, and he was trying to do that, but he was throwing a lot of naked leg kicks. He wasn't setting it up with a jab, and he hurt Chandler. The last one he hit on Chandler before he got knocked out hurt him. You could see he was like, he was shaking, right? And then Chandler just got booted up, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna knock you the fuck out. And then he throws the cross, and then the lead hook combo knocked him out and finished him. And then that was one of the hardest things for me to watch as a fan of Hooker, get laid out like that and get sent to the shadow realm. And the guy has power. I can't deny that. And then again, if you go look at that, he actually switched stances. So this southpaw version of him has to be worried, and Charles has to worry about this. And that's the number one thing I'm breaking. That's how I break down this fight, because for Chandler, I mean, the southpaw stance and his orthodox stance, he's gonna throw a lot of heat. So really, that's what Chandler's gonna have to worry about. But if we look at a guy like Chandler, and in terms of what he's accomplished, in terms of my film study, the way I broke it down, I kind of started off all the way to his fight against Frankie Edgar. I mean, this was a while back. This was in 2013. This was on, I think, the Silva versus Weidman card. I mean, you look at this fight, it was very interesting because it's a while back, but I wouldn't say Frankie is like Chandler, but he's kind of like a smaller wrestler. He doesn't have the power of a Chandler, but I feel like Chandler will take him down, kind of like Frankie. Chandler's more athletic and explosive than Frankie, but this is a fight that kind of worries me a lot when I look at this fight in terms of when it goes to the distance. Frankie had a lot of success of picking up Chandler and controlling him on the ground. He had a lot of success. He had multiple takedowns. He had success everywhere, basically, in the boxing, and just Oliveira wasn't ready for him. And anything Oliveira threw, he would get taken down. He got taken down maybe 4 or 5 times, and Frankie just put it on him. And this is a matchup I looked at like, man, this could happen. This could happen. Frankie had good head movement. He had moments where he would go to the body and then go to the head, like just something that Chandler would do, and that's something he's gonna have to worry about. Now, obviously, this is a different version of Oliveira. This is Oliveira, right? In terms that fought Frankie, that lost to Cub Swanson, Cerrone, like Jim Miller, like this is a different guy, And back then, and basically the point of this whole video, because I am talking about how many times he got taken down, he got slammed on his head at one point, got picked up so hard. Now he went for a guillotine. All respect to him, but he quit a lot in these, a lot basically, and Chandler kind of brought light to it. This guy's somewhat of a quitter, and I've talked about it multiple times how he quits sometimes. But as much as I've shit on him for quitting, he has grown from this, and it started to show basically when it got all the way. Now, obviously, he does have that Paul Felder loss, but it started to show, right, with the Will Brooks fight. Will Brooks is a common opponent that Chandler fought, and when Will Brooks fought this guy, it wasn't too long ago, actually, from the Chandler fight. It wasn't too long ago, right when he beat Chandler. Yep. It was a while back. I will say that. It was like, how many fights in? 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 fights away. The fight with Oliveira and Chandler happened. The Chandler fight happened in 2014. The Oliveira fight happened. Okay, so it was a while back. I would say there's a space. So you could say maybe Will Brooks kind of fell off a little bit, but what Oliveira did to Will Brooks was rape, y'all. That was rape. Okay, there's no way you can explain what happened there. This is an accomplished wrestler in Will Brooks. He took him down twice with ease, by the way, and he got that rear naked choke and choked him the F out. He choked him the F out like he was a nobody. I was shocked. It was the first time I watched this fight. I thought Will would give him a performance. I thought, obviously, you can say whatever you want to say about Will, but I mean, I thought Will would have done a lot better than that, and he got choked the F out, y'all. Then, obviously, he fights Paul Felder. I've talked about this fight multiple times and how this fight ended up going. Paul Felder controlled the fight and made him tap out to strikes. It's that simple. It's nothing really to talk. I've talked about this before, but he made him tap out to strikes. Hurt him bad. hurt him bad, y'all. And they were very short elbows, and you could just tell it was just hurting him. And this was probably the last time he really quit. This wasn't too long ago. This was, in 2017. This was the last time he quit and he gave up. But I mean, ever since then, he's been on fire, man. All the way up to the David Tamor fight. And this is where I started. And this is a big, signal warning for Chandler fans if they're watching this. What David Tamor exposed to me in this fight, scares me for Oliveira. He had a lot of success with the lead hook. He was backing up a lot. He wasn't going forward, so you can't really say it's the same thing like Chandler. But there was a moment in that fight where he dropped Oliveira with a lead hook, and imagine if that was Chandler. If Chandler had an opportunity like now, Chandler wouldn't back up like that. Chandler would go forward. He's just not that kind of fighter to back up. But man, that 2 rolls under, throws that lead hook. Man, Chandler's a monster. And David had success with that. Now, obviously, there was a lot of eye pokes in this fight. It was disgusting what was happening. And I felt so bad for Oliveira. But Oliveira rallied. And Oliveira, the thing about him, he will go forward. And he has that kind of like Muay Thai striking style where he's just very hands up and just moving forward. Now, Oliveira, when he fights Chandler, he's going to have to do that. And he's going to have to move his head. He can't just, You see it with guys like Donald Cerrone, where all they just do is just keep their hands up. You have to have some head movement. But he showed some head movement in his career, and he showed some improvements in his boxing. But it is what it is. And then he ended up rallying back, hurt David with an elbow, and got the anaconda choke. And that was really impressive from him. I was really, really impressed. But it is what it is. And then he fights Nick Lentz. Amazing performance. I love this. And this is a Stanford MMA fighter, by the way. I'm just saying. This is a guy that's trained with Chandler before. Nick is a good fighter. Nick throws the body kick, straight right cross to the dome piece, and then some ground and pound. Beautiful, beautiful performance. Good on Oliveira. Amazing. Just made a quick work of him in the second round. Then fights Jared Gordon. Went out here. I think this was a moment in Oliveira's career where he needed. It was like people were like, why isn't he not fighting like the top 10 guys? He was kind of getting fed, even though he was like number 13 in the world. I think he was getting fed these guys that were kind of like up and coming, or guys he's had history with, like in terms of Nick Lentz. That was a trilogy fight. But man, he went out there, and I think he wanted to prove a point with Jared Gordon, who is another Stanford MMA guy. I'm just saying, y'all. But he went out there and just murdered him with the overhand right to uppercut combo. I was shocked. Now, Jared did get up at the end, but Jared, he got sat the fuck down and got murdered in this fight, and good on Oliveira on that. And then his fight with Kevin Lee, this was like, he showed the world that he ain't and I doubted him here. I've doubted him a lot. And he showed that he ain't going nowhere. And in this fight against Kevin Lee, man, he did so good in it. The thing with him, he upped the pace with Kevin. He just made sure Kevin was working. He came out there and fucking came for Kevin, threw like a crank kick, threw leg kicks at him. He was making Kevin work. Then, this is something we might see in the fight, and I think he could surprise Chandler with this. He goes for the takedown. He almost got Kevin Lee down. He almost got it, but the momentum, it wasn't on his way, and then Kevin Lee took advantage of it and stayed on top. And in terms of similar opponents, Kevin Lee, I wouldn't say he's like Chandler, but he's a very athletic wrestler with great striking, and they both do gas out, and like Chandler has gassed out before. But oh my God, man, this performance against Kevin. Now Kevin, he did have some success. He had some takedowns. He had like 2 takedowns, and the takedown he got in the second round really helped him. And me and my boy Kendall was talking about this. Kendall, I wasn't aware, and I don't know if this is true, but I've seen a video about it, that Kevin Lee with, I think, was it an inside trip? Like, I don't know what he got him with, but it was one of the takedowns he got him with, and he just slammed his head on the mat, and it said like Oliveira was out. And you could see it. It was weird. Like, Oliveira didn't really do anything on bottom like he was in the first round. And it might have been tired. You never know. But it is what it is, man. And ever since then, where ever since that point, Oliveira, he kind of rebounded, got up, and then just put it on. And one of the smartest things he did in the third round is he picked up the pace like crazy. And he again came out there with a fucking, crane kick. And then he forced Kevin to really go crazy and throw like that 1-2 high kick or 1-2 roundhouse kick. And it kind of got Kevin really tired because Kevin had a lot of success with just controlling him and resting. Basically laying and praying, and that's what they wanted to do. And they probably would have won a decision that way. But Kevin it's the game, man. He got played. And it's not like Oliveira was lighting him up on the feet. I'm not going to say that. Oliveira was lighting him up on the feet. Now, Kevin did have some success with the 1-2, and that's something Oliveira's gonna have to worry about, man. Kevin had a lot of success with the 2, but it was a lot of success in spurts. It wasn't a lot. Oliveira was dominating even the striking. Kevin just had success on top, basically on the ground. That's like how you could say he won some rounds. It's hard, man. Those rounds are very, very close. It's hard to judge. Like you can say, oh man, Kevin had so much top control, but like, oh man, Oliveira was throwing so many submissions up, and it's really hard to debate who won a lot of those rounds. And they only fought for really like 2 rounds and a half, and if you consider the third. And then Kevin got caught in the guillotine, went for a very, very sloppy single leg after that exchange with Oliveira. And the striking exchange I talked about prior, he got him tired. He figured him out, got him tired, and he went for a sloppy takedown and got guillotined. And, obviously shameful moment for Kevin. He said he didn't tap out. I will assume Kevin was hurt, or, the air got out of his head and he wasn't thinking straight because he did tap. And, it is what it is. Kevin's a good kid. He will grow from that fight. I will say that now, but it is what it is. And then he gets matched up with Tony Ferguson. Obviously, Tony Ferguson was coming off his fight with Justin Gaethje. Again, I doubted Charles in this fight. I ate some crow. I thought Tony could get him tired. I thought Tony could break him. I thought Tony could bring him to that guy that got hit with a body shot against Cub Swanson and quit. I thought he could bring him to that moment. Or, a guy that got submitted by Anthony Pettis and Ricardo Lamas, and a guy that got a shoulder injury against Max Holloway and just sat down there and kind of looked like he didn't want to be there. Instead, Charles went out there like a man, like a fucking man, and went out there and destroyed Tony Ferguson. Took him down countless times. The first round, picked him up like he was a nobody. Oh my, it was insane. And then at the end of the round, I thought he was damn near going to break this dude's arm. And he just fucking hyperextended it. And dude, and then in the next round, again, he takes him down again. And then in the third, he ends up picking up, slamming him, and he just controls him for most of the fight. It was complete domination and a sensational performance by Charles. And I became a believer after that. I was like, you know what? I think this kid grew up. I think he finally grew up. I think he knows what he wants, and he wants that belt. And I never forget when I watched the countdown for the Charles and Tony fight. It was amazing. But he said one thing. He said, Tony had his time. I didn't have my time, and I want my time now. And this is what this fight's going to be. I'm going to say it right now. I got Oliveira by third round submission. That's what I'm taking him out. I'm taking him by third round submission. I think Oliveira, if he can put the pace on him, keep a high guard, don't get caught with anything crazy from Chandler, he can win this fight. And I think he'll take it. That's what I'm going. Now Chandler, on the other hand, I brought it up, the David Taymor fight, all those things. He can get hurt. Not that he can get hurt. He can really hurt Oliveira, and he can catch him in the first. And he said it before. If you quit one time, you'll quit again. But he's one to talk because he basically quit in the Will Brooks fight. He can claim that he was out of his brain a little bit, but it is what it is. He can't really talk mess about Oliveira in this situation, but he can't win it. He can't win it by first round knockout. I can really see him catching him with the hook, the lead hook. Or switching stances and fucking with Oliveira's brain. But if Oliveira continues to go forward instead of going backwards and chop those legs up, but don't throw naked leg kicks, he can win. And even go for takedowns. Can Chandler control him on the ground? I don't know, man. I don't know. It has happened to Oliveira, but I don't know. And I've never seen Chandler submitted. That's one thing I will give Chandler. It's going to be hard to submit him. But if there is a man that can do it, I think it's Oliveira. But yeah, I got Charles Oliveira winning this by third round submission. I think he'll get him tired. I think he'll start stuffing takedowns, and I think he will engage in wrestling and get Chandler tired, and I think he'll hurt Chandler that way. And yeah, I got Oliveira winning this by third round submission. I think he'll get him. I think Chandler will. And you got to also look at this. Oliveira has been having longer fights up to this moment, while Chandler has had shorter fights up to this moment. His last 5-round decision victory was against Brett Primus 2 years ago in 4 months. His last 4 fights all ended in the first round. Patricio Pitbull lost in the first round. Sidney Outlaw won in the first round. Benson Henderson won in the first round. Dan Hooker won in the first round. That's how I look at this fight, and I got Charles Oliveira taking this by third round submission. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. My computer's about to die, so I gotta end this real quick. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to follow me on my IG. And I'm not gonna continue with the outro or the conclusion of this video because it's about to die. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Love y'all, and goodbye.